and welcome to another Substack Live session. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about abundance and scarcity. And as per usual, I have come to you from the garden. That, of course, is what I usually do on a Saturday morning, and we have got a glorious Saturday morning, probably one of the last of the summer or even maybe of the autumn. So we'll just take it a day at a time. I wanted to start with a quote that I read this week that has kind of been ringing in my mind ever since, and it is by Ingrid Goff Madoff. And she says, "God spoke today in flowers, and I, who was waiting on words, almost missed the conversation." Isn't that a beautiful quote? And of course, you can imagine that I have been thinking about that as I go out into the garden. And even before I went out into the garden, I was thinking about it because God does so often speak to me through flowers. And this morning, that was definitely the case. And I was not only profoundly inspired by that, but profoundly inspired by the task that I was doing, which is much to my I suppose you could say regret, something I've never done before, and that is I was saving seed from the different plants. And this was encouraged by the British gardener, Carol Klein, who in the last session of Gardener's World that I watched was out there collecting seeds from all kinds of different plants, and she was absolutely sparkling as she did this. And I thought, oh, maybe it's time that I had a go. And I went out, to be honest, I was overwhelmed by not just the variety of seeds that I could save, far more than I will ever be able to plant next year, but also by the abundance of them. So I brought in a couple of plants just to show you. This is a straw flower. And if you look at it here, it is just about sending out a little bit like a dandelion in terms of what the flowers look like at this stage. And there's one that is all ready to be sent off on its journey to go somewhere to be planted. And there must be dozens, if not hundreds, of seeds in this single seed head. And of course, there are dozens of seed heads on my straw flowers, and there are dozens of seed heads elsewhere. The marigold looks very different. Its seeds won't be flying away, but they will just be dropping on the ground. Again, look at the abundance that there is in that single seed head, though, and dozens of them, and other kinds of seeds as well. And I was looking at this morning, and I was thinking, wow, the abundance that there is when we look at God's world. The abundance in every aspect. I mean, over the summer, we've been enjoying the abundance of the flowers, and now we are enjoying the abundance of the seeds. And I am overwhelmed by God's generosity. I am overwhelmed by the way that God provides for us because, of course, these are the seeds that will provide next year's harvest. These are the seeds that if we plant them, will kind of give us not only an abundance this year, but an abundance next year as well. And when we look at things through the eyes of a flower, we live in a world of abundance. Where we look at things through the eyes of, maybe words, certainly the eyes of consumerism, we feel that we live in a world of scarcity and that there is never enough for the things that we want to do. But the principles of God's world that I was thinking about this morning, firstly, in order to appreciate God's abundance, we need to take notice. I can so easily pass by these seeds. As I said, this is the first year, believe it or not, even though I've been gardening for many, many years, this is the first year that I have actually collected seeds for next year. Secondly, we need to take time to gather those seeds. And then at the right time to plant them, and then we need to be willing to share. That's part of what I have enjoyed this year because I planted far too many seeds last year, ones that I bought, uh, for me to plant in my own garden. And so we did a garden giveaway at church. And I've had people, and I think I mentioned this last week, I've had people coming up to me all summer saying, "Hey, look what grew out of the plant that you gave me." There is so much joy in sharing and in being generous in the way that God intends us to do. But I was thinking about another lesson because as I walked around the garden, I realized that some of the plants that I planted this last year will not produce seeds, or if they do produce seeds, those seeds will not be producing flowers next year that are true to the ones that I am looking at this year. And that is because human beings love to meddle. And one of the things that they love to meddle with is seeds. And we've got, of course, these glorious plants around at the moment. I love to buy some of the new petunias, for example, that have been flowering all summer. But I know that trying to collect their seed isn't going to work because they are what is called hybrids. And hybrids are varieties that have been created by human meddling, and they will not, the seed, if you get seed from them, will not be true seed. So one of the things I need to do is to look at some of the things because, for example, I'm not 100% sure that this particular marigold, which is a beautiful big pom-pom marigold like this, bright yellow, that it isn't a hybrid. And I need to check before I start to think about using these for next year because I don't want to plant all these seeds and then be disappointed. And I think about that, for people who are planting crops for next year and for generation upon generation, hundreds, if not thousands of years, people have saved seed for next year. And generally speaking, unless there's been a famine or a flood or something that has meant that they don't get enough seed for next year, then the abundance of their harvest next year depends on the seeds that they have produced. But now, people are using not just genetically modified seeds, but hybrid seeds as well. And these, I feel, perpetuate that sense of scarcity that so many of us have these days because they don't produce new seeds and a new crop next year in the same way that the old seeds did. And many gardeners, you will find, uh, will not plant hybrid seeds. Now, I do, as I said, plant some of them, but I try to basically plant ones that I know will produce seeds for next year because I think that that is the principle of God's world, abundance, not scarcity. And when humans start to meddle and when humans want to make money out of something, guess what? Suddenly, we live in a world in which there seems to be scarcity instead of abundance. So, what I want you to do this week is to think about where you have given up abundance for scarcity and what ways you've done that. And what are the consequences, not just for your life, but maybe for the lives of others as well? And I'm not going to give you any hints in this because there are so many places in which we see this. But think about it. We have given up abundance as God intends it for scarcity as consumerism and the world wants us to give. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I have certainly been inspired by it. Oh, and I wanted to read a poem as I end that I wrote this morning as I contemplated this. I almost missed the voice of God that spoke through flowers and the brilliance of the sunset last night. I was too busy looking for words, to, to, too distracted by the sounds that filled our silly city skies, planes and cars, leaf blowers and weed trimmers, blaring music that mutes the wonder of our world and makes it hard to hear and see and stand in awe. My eyes were blinded by the ads beckoning me towards more. You don't have enough, they seemed to say. Scarcity, not abundance, fills our world. This is a world that we have created and not God. I'm sorry that a little hesitant and a little dry mouth this morning, but please, I appreciate your comments. So please let me know what you think of these Substack live sessions. Very spontaneous, as you know, but I enjoy doing them, and I hope that you enjoy them as well. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.